I thought I might just talk about my radial drill for a minute. It's a 1957 American Tool Works Hole Wizard. It's got a 9-inch column and a 4-foot arm. I bought it used 4 or 5 years ago now, and I had it set up in my old shop. It's been in some of my earlier videos, but it's a typical 1950s machine tool. Everything is heavy and well built. It runs really smooth. I don't know if this thing had a very hard life or not. I've been in the transmission, and the gears, most of them look like they've never been used. It's a well-built machine. There's no doubt about it. I think most people look at a radial drill as sort of a brute force machine. You'll see them in fabricating shops and that, and they're punching large holes through big thick plates, and they'll do that, and ones especially like this from that era will do that day in and day out for decades without wearing out. But they can also be a very fine finesse type machine tool. You know, you can't do any milling with them or anything, but when it comes to drilling, tapping, and boring holes, they do an excellent job. Before I got my horizontal mill, I did a lot of boring on my radial drill, and I wasn't really looking for this when I got it. It just happened to have it when I bought this radial drill, but American Tool Works offered the option of having a boring option on it, and I'm not sure if that's going to show up very well. As you can see here, it says drilling, and then over here it says boring, and you just select and then what happens is these are the feed rates for drilling, and when you select boring, it cuts all those feed rates by a factor of 4. So the lowest drilling feed rate is 4 thou per rev. When you select boring, that'll drop to 1 thou per rev. So you can get some very fine finishes when you're boring with this machine, because the feed rate is so low, can be so low if you choose to use it that way. Right now, I am just roughly leveling this in. It's been sitting here for 4 months, and I haven't used it yet. I haven't had time to bolt it down and level it properly. I need to use it to drill the 2-inch rough holes in the pin boss plates before they get welded on there and there. So I've just roughly leveled it, putting the level on the table and just driving wedges under the 4 corners, and it's still not bolted down. I'm going to do that at a later date. I don't like using this if it's not bolted down, because I believe most of them will topple over if you swing the arm over and they're not bolted down. But for this job, drilling out these holes, I'll be keeping the arm centered over the table. I won't be swinging it out, so it should be okay. When I set this up in my garage, my old shop, I did a proper job of leveling it. You should have wedges driven under in 6 places usually on these drills, 1 in each corner, and then 1 on each side right in front of the column, because there's so much force on the front of the column from the weight of the drill in the arm that it wants to fold the base down there. So by driving wedges under, you support it. And when I set this up in my old shop, I was very careful when I level it. I was pretty fanatical about it, actually. I wanted to be able to bore with it. So I spent several days with my level that I normally level lathes with, and spent a bunch of time, and I got the base, and I did it without the table on. You level it off the base, and I got it, so essentially the level was reading 0 no matter where I put it. After I did that, I did you can't really tram the head on these things. There's no adjustment to square the column up or anything, but you can do a tram. You can tram it just to check and see what it's like. So I did that. I trammed the, I brought the head out halfway on the arm, locked everything, extended the spindle down with extensions and put a dial indicator on, and then swept a circle, I think about 18 inches in diameter. And the difference between this side and that side, which would indicate sag in the arm or tilting in the column, was 8/10, less than a thou over 18 inches. And I was shocked because at the time the drill press was almost 60 years old, and I couldn't believe that it could still be that square after all that time. But obviously they were well made, and nothing creaked or moved in close to 60 years. So I will set this one up that accurately again here, just not right now. I need to drill these holes, and it's the only machine I have that'll put these holes in right now. So but yeah, this is this machine has been, you know, it's great for drilling. It's been really good for boring, and tapping, it's like second to none. This thing taps like crazy, and it has a nice, I think of the American radial drills, which are American Toolworks, Carlton, and Cincinnati Bickford, are sort of the big three, or were the big three. I think of all of them, the depth gauge on the American is the nicest. It's very clean and uncluttered. The graduations are big. Each graduation there is a 32nd of an inch, I believe it is. Yeah, I think it even says it right there. So you can control the depth pretty closely. You're not going to control it to a thousandth of an inch or anything, but when you're tapping a blind hole with a tap that's held rigidly in the spindle, you can set the zero, and when it comes up to zero, you can reverse the spindle quickly, and you can feel very confident that you're not going to bottom the tap out and break it off. I've done quite a bit of tapping on this, and I've used that technique, setting the zero for the tap, and it's you're not nervous at all when you're doing it. You feel very confident tapping like that. This machine, unlike the large ones, this is kind of the baby of the radial drills that were built by those three companies. It's a 9-inch column with a 4-foot arm. It weighs, I think it's between 6,000 and 7,000 pounds. This was a small one. They only got bigger from here, and the larger ones had clutches in them. This one doesn't. It's just has the motor mounted directly on the transmission, and it's just you turn the motor on and off essentially to control the spindle. Now, when tapping, you essentially throw the motor from full forward to full reverse with the switch, and that's always, you know, you always wonder if you're doing harm to it or not when you do stuff like that. But in the owner's manual for this machine, it actually states that you can do that up to 16 times a minute with no risk of damaging the motor. This machine was designed to tap, and when you tap, you throw, you know, you go full forward to full reverse in an instant, and the switch gear and the motor and everything in this is heavy enough that it can handle that. As far as I can tell, everything on this machine is original. I've seen the motor starters. They're all old Allen Bradley. They're large and heavy. They're behind this cast iron case here. You can't see them right now, but I've had no trouble at all with the electrical on this machine. So obviously it was very well made, and I'm reaping the benefit of that now, 60 years later. Anyways, that's just a bit of an overview of my radial drill. I know they're kind of the black sheep of the workshop. People don't spend a lot of time with them or think about them much. But if you get one like this that's in decent shape and you level it properly and look after it, it can do the brutal work of pushing heavy drills through without pilot holes, but it can also machine beautiful bores and do really fine work. Anyways, I'll I'll have some video later of it drilling the holes in the boss plates. Thanks.